Hi, my name is David Barber, and I am a re-recording mixer and supervising sound editor at Juniper Post in Burbank, California. iZotope's RX is world-renowned for its audio cleanup abilities, but today I want to talk to you about its use and its value as a storytelling tool. Recently, I had the pleasure of joining my friend, sound designer and re-recording mixer Peter Albrechtsen on the mix of Robert Machoyan's The Killing of Two Lovers, which premiered at the 2020 Sundance Film Festival. I was brought on to mix the dialogue and Foley, while Peter handled the ambiences, sound effects, and his stunning sound design. This was a very collaborative and creative mix, as any idea that would help enhance the story was welcomed and encouraged. To that end, during the pre-dub, I was really taken by the direction and editing of the film, as there were many long, single shots where the actors would use the entire screen as a stage. This made for some wonderful interactions and drama, prompting an idea that perhaps on this film we might be able to pan the voices more than usual in a live-action film to follow the actors on the screen with their dialogue. Traditionally, dialogue will stay primarily in the center channel of a 5.1 or 7.1 or Atmos mix, or in the middle of a stereo mix. Most films are shot and edited in such a way that if you were to try to locate or pan the dialogue to reflect accurately where the speaker is based on what you're looking at on the screen, that dialogue would be jumping all around the theater. Clearly, this would be very distracting and counter to our purpose of immersing the viewer in the story, thus the convention of mixing dialogue primarily in the middle. Keeping the dialogue in the middle makes it the focus, no matter what the picture is doing, and keeping the audience engaged. This film was mixed in 5.1, but for this demo we'll be speaking in terms of the stereo image. I showed the team the idea of panning the dialogue on a scene near the beginning of the film. They really liked how it sonically separated the characters, mirroring their visual separation on the screen, while also playing into the storyline of a divided family. So we made the decision to try to apply this sensibility throughout the film. Where it got tricky was when we didn't have the coverage or separation of the voices that you would necessarily want when walking down this road. Nor did we have the ADR or Foley coverage for some of the moves that we were now needing to make. On top of that, we were against the clock of a Sundance delivery being just days away. This is where RX-7 Advanced emerged as an essential storytelling tool. We'll go through a couple of scenes from the film that demonstrate the expansive panning we did with the dialogue and the RX techniques we used to free up the elements that were needed to pan. The Killing of Two Lovers stars Clayne Crawford as David, a husband and father who was in the midst of a trial separation from his wife, Nikki, and living away from his kids for the first time. We're dealing with a fragmented, separated family in this story. We wanted to use the panning of the dialogue as a storytelling tool to help separate them sonically as well. We thought this would enhance the drama, dynamics, and emotion of what we see on the screen, but also wanted to do it transparently. In order to discreetly pan a sound, you need to have separate elements to be able to put them in different locations. By separate elements, I mean not having common sonic information in two panned audio files that will skew their perceived location in the sound field. For example, in this scene we have lav mics on a few of the actors, and inevitably, there is some bleed of one actor's voice into another actor's mic, and vice versa, often with dialogue overlapping. Here's an example of bleed.
Daddy's here. Can you just finish the sandwiches and put this away?
You can clearly hear that we're listening to Nikki's mic, but also hearing a significant amount of David and their son recorded on her mic as well. We'll address that more in depth in a minute. In order to be able to discreetly pan one voice left and one voice right, the overlap of the dialogue must be diminished or eliminated if possible. Otherwise, that common information, in this example, David and the boy's voice, would be coming out of both the left and right speakers and would upset the separation we're trying to achieve. This first scene is the one that inspired the idea to pan the dialogue, moving it to match each character's location on the screen. We have David coming to pick up Nikki for a date as they try to work through some of their marital issues. Let's hear the scene with the dialogue panned in the center.
Jess! 1 minute, Mom. Daddy's here. Can you just finish the sandwiches and put this away? Home by 9. Got it?
What's up, boys?
Alright, David, let's go.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right, y'all be good for your sister, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Boys, listen to your sister. Give me a kiss.
I love you. I love you.
Hey, Jess.
Let's go.
Y'all be good.
The first thing panning the dialogue has to offer the story in this scene is cueing the viewers into the location of the actors in the scene. With the dialogue in the middle, it's difficult to figure out where each actor's dialogue is coming from. The layout of the house is revealed on the first cut, but a little panning at the top of the scene will help sonically establish this. Nikki and her daughter are in the kitchen on the left, the boys are in the center watching TV, and David, the dad, is knocking at the front door on the right. The question is, do we have the separate, discrete elements to be able to make these panning choices? Let's take a listen to some of the obstacles we'll need to overcome to achieve our goal, and then work our way through them.
Jess!
1 minute.
Well, we don't get very far. The very first audio file contains the boys' voices, which we want to keep in the center, and David's knocks at the door, which we want to pan hard to the right. Let's go about extracting those elements and creating the 2 audio files that we'll need out of the one that we have. First, we'll make 2 copies of the audio file and shuttle one out to RX7 Advanced using the RX Connect Audio Suite plugin in Pro Tools. Let's first work on eliminating the knocks and isolating the voices. Here's our starting point. On the spectrogram, frequency is represented vertically from low to high, and time is horizontal from left to right. Knocks are transient sounds, meaning they have a sharp articulation, represented vertically on the spectrogram, and some decay over time represented horizontally. The main focus here is to diminish or eliminate the harsh transient sound of the knock. If I'm not able to do that, then that signal coming from the center speaker is going to pull the sound of the knocks from where we want them to be, on the right. There are a few different ways to go about this. We'll go a little outside the box and start with the declick module. Let's see if we can't trick it into thinking that these knocks are just giant clicks by using a higher sensitivity and a wider setting on the click widening. I like to use the multiband periodic clicks setting on most things that are not removed by mouth declick. Instant process is a huge time saver, and you'll see it selected often in this demo. You can use it in a few different modes, most commonly in attenuate, executing a spectral repair function, but in this case, we'll change the instant process mode to declick. Once you make a selection using one of the selection tools down here, as soon as you release your mouse, RX7 executes the parameters of the module you have selected. So let's make a few selections. Next, we'll use the Spectral Repair module for some cleanup. Since we're looking to get rid of a transient or vertical sound, let's switch direction of interpolation to horizontal and tighten up the bands as well as the surrounding region length. This is how you tell RX where you want to look for content for interpolation. Let's also skew the before-after weighting toward the before side so that RX is interpolating information from a little more of the silent side of the transient and not pulling as much from the noisy or decay side of the transient. We'll turn on instant process again, but this time using the attenuate setting. Remaining is a bit of low-end information from the door knocks, so we'll just attenuate that signal using Spectral Repair while we're here. A high-pass filter in the EQ module works as well. I think we've achieved enough reduction for our center channel. Once we isolate the knocks and pan them hard right, I think the amount of residual knocking in the center will not skew or pull the knocks towards the middle. Remember, you can always go back and do more processing. I always try to stop short, if not well short, of overprocessing material. Let's take a listen to the final product. Now, let's go get the voices out of our door knocks. Let's take another listen to our source audio. This time, let's give the Deconstruct module a go. There are 3 sliders in Deconstruct: tonal gain, noise gain, and transient gain. You can also select or deselect the transient slider by clicking on this box. In this case, we do want to separate the transients, so we'll select it. Since we're now looking to eliminate the voices or our tonal elements, let's turn that slider all the way down and see how far that gets us. You can see that it helped get rid of some large chunks of the tonal elements, but left us a bit to clean up. I noticed that we were given a little bit of a gift here in that the third knock doesn't have any vocalizations or voice decay over it. This is a great place to use the copy and paste function in RX. I'll make a selection after the first knock's transient and see how much decay I need to copy and paste there using the vertical or frequency selection tool. You can click on and slide that region over to just beyond the third knock's transient and copy the voice-free decay by pressing Command-C. Click on and slide the region back into place and paste the copied audio. Be careful here. The normal paste keyboard shortcut, Command-V, will insert the copied audio, which you don't want. The keyboard shortcut you're looking for here is Command-Option-Shift-V, and that will replace the audio information without altering the timeline. We'll repeat this process to paste the decay over the second knock. Select the amount you want to replace, copy, and paste again. Command-Option-Shift-V. Let's listen to our first 3 knocks. There are still some remnants of voices on the second knock, so let's zoom in to the areas that we'll be looking to clean up. You can either choose from the various zoom tools down here, or what I like to do is use the scroll wheel on my mouse. Hold down Option and scroll to zoom in and out at the frequency level. Hold down Control and scroll to zoom in and out at the time level. Now let's open up the Spectral Repair module. I'll switch over to the box or time frequency selection tool. Since the noise I want to remove is horizontal as it sustains over time, I'll use the vertical direction of interpolation with a tight surround length setting and make my selections. Again, making sure instant process is on and set to attenuate. Let's listen again to the first 3 knocks. Pretty good. Let's do a quick cleanup of the 4th knock with Spectral Repair, and this time I'll skew the surrounding region to interpolate more from slightly above the selection, theory being that there will be a little more silence above than below. My goal here is to eliminate enough of the voices so that we can just fade out of the audio file. Let's send this back, render it, pan it hard to the right and put a fade on it, and see if we're able to get what we needed. And now let's hear it with the boys' voices in the center as well to verify that the panned sounds are staying where we want them to in the stereo spectrum. The next issue we need to tackle is the bleed between the various lav mics that I mentioned in the intro. It's important to remember what we want the final product to be. In this case, we want Nikki to be panned hard left and David to be panned hard right. Any common sonic information in either of their mics will pull our perception of their location toward the center. Let's take a listen to Nikki's mic.
Daddy's here. Can you just finish the sandwiches and put this away?
And now let's listen to David's mic.
What's up, buddy?
You can hear quite a bit of David and the boy in Nikki's mic as they're projecting from across the room, but not much of Nikki and David's mic as she is more conversational with the daughter in the kitchen. So David's mic is pretty safe to pan hard to the right. The issue here is Nikki's mic. If we can't remove or attenuate enough of David and the boy's dialogue from Nikki's mic, then their voices would be pulled towards the center of our stereo image, as the same sonic information would be coming out of both the left and right speakers. The first part of the overlap can easily be solved editorially. Nikki doesn't start speaking until here, so we can simply cut off the front of this audio file and come in straight on her dialogue.
Daddy's here. Can you just finish the sandwiches and put this away?
Let's send this piece out to RX and see what we can do about reducing more of his voice. Her voice signature is pretty strong in this image, as is represented by the brighter orange spots. You can guess that the information in between is noise not directly connected to her dialogue, and in this case is probably David from across the room. We could be very harsh in our processing and completely eliminate David's voice as well as other background noise from the audio, but that would also be abusive to Nikki's voice. Maintaining her audio quality is priority one. I can't overstate this enough about processing audio, but you should always strive to do just enough to accomplish your goal, nothing more. In this case, the goal is to reduce David's vocal signature in her mic enough so that when she's panned hard left and he's panned hard right, his voice does not appear to be coming from anywhere other than the right speaker. I'm going to lean heavily on Spectral Repair for this task to attenuate his signal in and around her voice. First, let's clean up some of this low-end information. Next, I'll switch over to the lasso selection tool in order to define selections more precisely. For starters, we'll use the horizontal interpolation direction and skew it towards wherever the most silence will be.
Daddy's here. Can you just finish?
I can hear that he is laughing in between her lines, here and here. We definitely want to remove that since it is exposed and not masked by her dialogue. Let's switch the interpolation direction to vertical and clean it up a bit. These little audio events, his laugh between her dialogue, happen very quickly, and removing them goes a long way into the perception of where we want David's voice to be coming from. In addition to attenuation, another technique is to simply reach for the gain module on the right-hand menu and turn the selection down to lower or remove it. Now let's address the more linear or time-based parts of David's voice and either attenuate or gain reduce them. Through repeating this process, we end up with a pretty nice result that we can now go back and test in our mix. Let's pan Nikki hard left and David hard right and listen to feel if anything is pulling one or the other voice towards the center.
Daddy's here. Can you just finish the sandwiches and put this away?
I'm satisfied that both voices are staying at home in the stereo image. I used these same techniques whenever there were overlaps on the lavs throughout the scene. Let's go back and put it all together. Let's hear how the panning helps us define the environment, as well as playing to the emotional and physical division of the family.
Jess!
1 minute, Mom. Daddy's here. Can you just finish the sandwiches and put this away? Home by 9. Got it?
What's up, boys?
Okay, David, let's go.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right, y'all be good for your sister, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Boys, listen to your sister. Give me a kiss.
I love you. I love you.
Hey, Jess.
Kiss.
Let's go.
Y'all be good.
One final thing I wanted to do was to be able to double check my panning for the scene. For this, I opened up iZotope's Insight 2. I'll place the plugin in sound field mode directly below the picture. Here is hard left and here is hard right. If all has gone as planned, you'll see the energy of the sound sources reflected in the graphic display, and that energy should be pointed in the direction of the speaker or movement on the screen. Here's a sample of what that looks like.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right, y'all be good for your sister, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Boys, listen to your sister. Give me a kiss.
I love you. I love you.
Hey, Jess.
Kiss.
Let's go.
Y'all be good.
Thank you for watching, and be sure to check out part 2, where we take a look at another scene in The Killing of Two Lovers, and how RX-7 Advanced helped us enhance the story through sound.